Searching for the eyes to see. Almost sounds like a song. Maybe it is, probably is. Anyway, we tend to find what we're looking for. If we're serious enough about something and we need to find something, we're going to find it. It's what we do. Even something as simple as recognizing that we need a can of corn to finish making a burrito pie, but there's no can of corn in the closet, and so, or the pantry, and so we go to the grocery store. We're going to get that can of corn. We've got to find that can of corn so we can make that pie complete. And we get into the store, and lo and behold, they've decided to change the aisles. They've reorganized things. There's a new system. Tom knows something about that. They do it every now and again. I don't know exactly why, but they do it, maybe to whatever. But you go in, you're looking for that can of corn, and you realize it's not in aisle 3 like it always has been for the last several years, and you're confused and maybe a little frustrated, and all of a sudden you look around, there are other frustrated people trying to make sense out of a whole new order, and finally, you ask questions, you look around, and you find that can of corn, and your mission has been complete. You were looking for something specific, you had a mission, a purpose, and by gosh, you did it. And that's just the way it works with us. If we have something in mind, if we want to see something, we will likely see it. We will search it out. We will find it, whatever it might be. Sometimes it will elude us, but we will find what we're looking for most of the time. I had a friend, his name's Rick, and he is a pastor, a former employee of ours. And Rick I've known him for about 35 years, and he's been a bird watcher since he was a kid in Indiana. He grew up and he's fascinated by birds. He was a bird watcher, and I hike through a Heritage Park. I used to a lot, not as much now, but I used to hike through the park 3-4 times a week. And when I hiked through the park, I was more into this contemplative mode. I wasn't really looking for wildlife or anything. I was more like meditating, but doing the hike and feeling the presence of the trees maybe, but not paying attention to wildlife. I mean, once in a while a squirrel would skirt past, and you'd hear the ruffling of the leaves and stuff and be startled a little, but I really wasn't paying attention to that. And I said to Rick one day, I said, I would like you to take me on a hike where I go in Heritage Park, and I want to see what you see. So we did one day. It was a Saturday morning, and we took this hike, the hike I normally take, and Rick showed me many, many different species of birds. I don't know, at least a dozen different types of birds, and explained them to me, and their songs and all this stuff. And well, I thought it was pretty interesting. I wasn't really hooked on it or anything, but it was nice. I went back to hiking the way I always did. Didn't look at the birds, didn't see any birds, but it was interesting. And then Rick, with Facebook, Rick is a friend of mine on Facebook. And every week he would post a picture of a bird he saw with a brief description. And I would read these things, and kind of interesting. I can't remember any of them, but take 2 minutes out. I'll learn about a bird and then forget it. But that was his passion, and that's a good thing. And then finally, a couple of years ago, I was sitting on my patio, and a beautiful day like today, probably a little warmer, and for some reason I kind of heard the birds chirping more than I normally would. And I downloaded an app, one of these bird watching apps you can get on your phone, and identify different birds. And I thought, that's pretty interesting. And I had a little epiphany that day after all this time. I realized there were more than 3 species of birds in Michigan. I was pretty sure there were just cardinals, robins, and sparrows, but little did I know there were many more. And recently I learned about woodpeckers, because there's one outside my office here at St. John. Every afternoon he or she gets working at it. But in any event, in the end, I just say that it didn't catch my attention really. I'm not a bird watcher, but I envy those who enjoy it and get great pleasure. But it comes to me that the understanding that if we have the interest in seeing something, that interest will carry us into another dimension of God's world. And that's very, very exciting. And particularly exciting when we reconfirm the fact today and throughout the Easter season that Christ is risen. Today, the disciples, they're up in Galilee. They're in the northwest ridge of the Sea of Galilee, and they see Jesus, the risen Christ, for the first time in this particular gospel story. Each gospel has a little bit different story, so let's not be confused about that. But in this story, Jesus appears to them, and they have been looking for him, and all of a sudden he's there. And they're shocked, they're amazed, they're frightened. It's hard to believe that he is there, and they knew he was going to meet him there, and he made it very clear that it is it's me, it's Jesus, I'm flesh right here. They offer him something to eat, he takes it, he eats it, he explains to them, he gives them the eyes to see Scripture more clearly than they ever have before. And this is a very empowering kind of situation for these disciples as they prepare to take the message forward throughout the ancient Near East. And it was the beginning of a new ministry for each of them. It was amazing, but they were afraid. It's scary to see Jesus sometimes, and sometimes not. I want to offer something this morning, thinking again about the fact that we are in the Easter season, and it gives us this opportunity to reflect on the risen Christ, to invite you each to, each day, either morning, afternoon, or evening, take 10 minutes out, quiet yourself, give thanks to God for all that you are, and then observe the last 12 to 24 hours and see where you have seen Jesus in that last 12 to 24 hours. See where you have seen the love of Christ working through another. Make a note of that. Become aware of that. Start to look for it, see. Look, because God is all around, see. And pay attention, and it will inform your faith in extraordinary ways. Just once a day for 10 minutes. Where did I see Jesus today? It may take, maybe first few days will be hard, I'm not sure. But then as you become more sensitized, oh yeah, here and here and here. Years ago, one of my clients was the Salt Lake City Mission, and Salt Lake City, Utah. And I was in the executive director's office one day and visiting. We were talking about the ministry, and he was talking about a guy named Carl, this young man that was coming to the mission every day around noon. He would come in to eat and visit for a while. He clearly was not homeless. The mission pretty much, served homeless folk. Carl wasn't homeless. He was very well dressed, clearly educated. He probably was what I guess we call on the spectrum. There was a little something a little bit different, but great guy. And they just took him in for lunch every day. It clearly meant something to him, and even his presence meant something to them. And then all of a sudden, as we were sitting in the office talking about Carl, the door, someone's knocking on the door, and a staff member announces the fact that there is a woman who would like to visit with the executive director. And it's a very informal place, so he just said, yeah, just tell her to come on in. And she comes in, and, well, she's the mother of Carl. And she said, I just realized that Carl had been coming here for lunch, and I was wondering where he was going and stuff. But it's kind of interesting because his whole attitude about life has changed, much more happy, much more hopeful. It's just like kind of a rebirth of some sort. And she says, I don't know what you're doing here, but I just want to thank you all. You are really special people. And the executive director said, trust me, we're not. It's Jesus who's special here. It's Jesus who works through us. And when she heard the name Jesus, she immediately started to weep. And executive director got up out of his chair and said, hey, would you like to just take a tour of the mission? And she did. For her, it was clear, it became more aware than ever before that Christ is risen. And so, as we think about this fact that Christ is present, Jesus is present throughout the world, it's a question that I invite you to ponder. Where have you seen Jesus in the last 12 or 24 hours? Because we tend to find what we're looking for. It's just a matter of focus, a matter of commitment. I've been saying this for a lot of weeks now, last 4 or 5 weeks anyway. I've been stuck on this conversation that Jesus had with his disciples. I think it was after the transfiguration, but he said, man, he said, I'm going to die, I'm going to rise again, but I promise you guys and gals, you're going to do greater things than I ever did. It's just going to happen. This is just a start. And I think about that Jesus says, the world's going to do greater things than I ever did. And so there's something to look for, isn't it? I know at St. John, I could talk about a lot of different things, different ways that I've seen Jesus working in our membership. The one thing is we still are working through the challenges of COVID and particularly now with a little bit of spiking and just we're all trying to sort it out, and God bless us all, we're trying to do it, and we're doing the best we can, and I'm so grateful for all of our people to make this as welcoming a situation as possible for everybody. But with respect to this COVID thing and seeing Jesus, I saw Jesus working really well here, I don't know, maybe 3-4 weeks ago. I'm thinking about the fact that we have a member who was struggling to get vaccinated. He was kind of like, it felt like he fell off the turnip truck. Why am I not being able to get an appointment? And everybody else is getting an appointment. And it was troubling him, and understandably so. And we had 2 or 3 members that just took it upon themselves to search far and wide for different appointments. And they felt his pain and his frustration. And they went to work. And there was just an example of God working through us, loving our neighbor, recognizing when we're struggling, and doing what we can to make a difference in someone's life. You see, if you seek, you're going to find. You're going to find. It's just a matter of focus. Now, I know last week I talked about doubt. I like doubt. Doubt's important. It's part of the life experience. It's part of our faith. It's okay to have some doubts. Healthy. Good to question the gospel, question the preacher, question each other. Healthy, good to do. God gave us a mind, an intellect, a heart, a soul. And it's important. It's painful sometimes to question. It's painful to doubt. That's part of the deal. Jesus did. But I'm going to tell you something. A nice way to minimize that doubt a little bit is to put your eyes on and ask the question, where did I see Jesus today? And that'll bring some of that doubt down for a while. For he is risen. Amen.